Welcome, my friends. Today we're going to talk about something that many of you have likely experienced. That moment when someone you gave distance to, whether a close friend, a romantic partner, or someone you had a strong connection with, suddenly comes back into your life. You might have wondered why this happens. Why do people return when we step back and give them space? What is it about distance that draws them in? The answer, as always, is deeper than it seems. And it's rooted in ancient wisdom, specifically the philosophy of Stoicism. This way of thinking encourages us to reflect on life's complexities through a lens of mindfulness, emotional discipline, and self-reliance. When we dive into the principles of Stoicism, we begin to understand that distance is not a mere tactic. It's a vital part of relationships and personal growth. It helps us foster deeper connections with others, and perhaps more importantly, with ourselves. Before we begin, take a moment and write this phrase in the comments below. In stillness, I find clarity. This is our guiding principle for today. We often think that action, constant interaction, communication, or engagement is the key to maintaining relationships. But sometimes it is the opposite. Sometimes it's in stillness, in stepping back, that we find the clarity we need, both within ourselves and in the dynamics of our relationships with others. Let this phrase serve as a reminder that stillness and space can reveal profound truths. Now let's explore the 7 reasons why they came back after you gave them distance, and how Stoicism can offer us timeless lessons on why stepping back can often lead to deeper, more meaningful connections. One of the greatest lessons that Stoicism teaches us is the power of non-attachment. This is the first reason why people come back after you've given them distance. In relationships, as in life, we often feel the need to hold on tightly to the things and people we care about. But when we cling to others, whether it's out of fear, insecurity, or a desire for control, we create an atmosphere of tension and dependency. This neediness can push people away, even if we have the best intentions. Stoicism reminds us that attachment to external things or people often leads to suffering. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." This applies perfectly to relationships. We cannot control another person's emotions, decisions, or behavior. We cannot make someone stay if they don't want to, and we cannot force them to love us. What we do have control over is ourselves, our own actions, thoughts, and responses. When you give someone distance, you are practicing non-attachment. You are releasing the need to control the outcome of the relationship. This act of letting go is powerful because it shows that you are not dependent on their presence for your happiness. You are not clinging to them out of fear of losing them. Instead, you are demonstrating that your sense of peace and fulfillment comes from within. When someone senses that you are not attached to them, they often feel more comfortable and drawn back toward you. Why? Because non-attachment creates emotional freedom. It removes the pressure from the relationship and allows the other person to come back willingly, without feeling coerced or manipulated. By stepping back, you are showing strength and self-reliance. You are showing that you are whole on your own, and that kind of emotional independence is incredibly attractive. There's a paradox at play here. When we try too hard to hold on to someone, we often push them away. But when we let go and give them space, they often return. This doesn't mean that we should practice distance as a manipulative tactic to get what we want. Instead, it's about genuinely understanding that our happiness and well-being are not tied to the actions of others. It's about cultivating a mindset of non-attachment, where we love and care for others, but do not depend on them for our sense of self-worth. This leads us to the second reason people often come back after you've given them distance: space for reflection. In today's world, we are constantly surrounded by distractions, whether it's our phones, social media, work, or the demands of daily life. We rarely have time to sit in stillness and reflect on our relationships or the role certain people play in our lives. But when you give someone distance, You offer them the gift of time and space to reflect. In this period of separation, they have the opportunity to think about the relationship without the constant presence of communication or interaction. They can evaluate their feelings more clearly. They may begin to realize how much they valued your presence, your support, or your companionship. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of the great Stoic philosophers, wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." This is the power of reflection. When we step back, we allow ourselves, and others, the space to retreat into our own minds to assess what truly matters. When someone is constantly surrounded by your presence, they may not have the mental or emotional space to fully appreciate what you bring to their life. But when you remove yourself from the equation, they are left to confront the reality of your absence. This absence forces them to reflect on what your presence meant to them. This process of reflection is important not only for them, but also for you. When you give someone distance, you too have the opportunity to reflect. You can think about the dynamics of the relationship and whether it was truly serving you. You can ask yourself important questions. Was I giving too much of myself? Was I relying too heavily on this person for validation? What do I truly want out of this connection? Reflection brings clarity, and sometimes that clarity reveals that the relationship is worth revisiting. Other times, it shows us that moving on is the best path forward. Either way, distance creates the space for these realizations to emerge, both for you and for them. Another reason people come back after you've given them distance is that your growth becomes a source of inspiration. When we are deeply involved in a relationship, it's easy to lose sight of ourselves. We may start to neglect our own personal development, focusing all our energy on the other person or the relationship itself. But when you step back, you create space not only for reflection, but also for growth. Stoicism encourages us to constantly seek self-improvement, to strive toward becoming the best version of ourselves. As Seneca said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." This is a lifelong journey. Personal growth is not something that happens overnight. It requires time, effort, and introspection. When you give someone distance, you have the opportunity to focus on your own development. You can work on your physical health, your mental well-being, your career, your passions, and your emotional resilience. As you grow and evolve, others take notice. When the person you gave distance to eventually returns, they may find themselves drawn to the new, stronger, more self-assured version of you. Your growth serves as a reminder that you are constantly evolving, that you are not the same person you were when they left. This transformation can be deeply inspiring to others. However, it's important to note that this growth should not be motivated by a desire to win someone back. Instead, it should be driven by your own commitment to personal excellence. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our own actions, our own character, and to let go of external outcomes. When you focus on your growth for the sake of your own development, you naturally begin to attract others who are inspired by your journey. Growth is often uncomfortable. It requires us to confront our weaknesses, our fears, and our insecurities. But as you grow, you become more resilient, more confident, and more grounded. This inner strength radiates outward, and people are drawn to that energy. They want to be around someone who is constantly striving to be better, who is not afraid to face challenges and grow from them. When someone comes back after distance, it's often because they see how much you've grown, and they want to be part of that journey. They see the changes in you, whether it's your increased confidence, your emotional stability, or your newfound sense of purpose, and they are drawn to reconnect with this evolved version of you. Emotional stability is another key reason people often return after you've given them distance. In relationships, emotions can run high, whether it's the passion of love, the pain of separation, or the fear of rejection. But Stoicism teaches us that we have the power to control our emotions. We are not slaves to our feelings. We can choose how we respond to the challenges life throws our way. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is a fundamental principle of Stoicism, emotional resilience. When you step back and give someone distance, you also give yourself the opportunity to cultivate emotional stability. You are no longer caught up in the emotional turbulence of the relationship. Instead, you find your center and focus on maintaining your inner peace. People are naturally drawn to emotional stability. When they see that you are not easily rattled or swayed by external circumstances, they feel a sense of safety and security in your presence. Emotional maturity is rare, and it's something that others deeply appreciate, especially in moments of uncertainty or conflict. When someone comes back after distance, it's often because they recognize the emotional stability you've cultivated in their absence. They see that you are not dependent on their presence for your happiness. You are not constantly seeking validation or reassurance. Instead, you are calm, grounded, and self-assured. This kind of emotional resilience is incredibly attractive because it signals that you are capable of weathering life's storms without falling apart. Emotional stability is not about suppressing your feelings or pretending that you don't care. It's about learning to process your emotions in a healthy way and responding to them with wisdom and clarity. It's about understanding that while you cannot control what happens outside of you, you can control how you choose to react. In relationships, this emotional stability creates a sense of trust. When someone knows that they can count on you to remain composed, even in difficult situations, they are more likely to feel comfortable returning to the relationship. They know that you won't be reactive or volatile, but instead, you will approach challenges with a level head and an open heart. This brings us to another important concept in Stoicism, the power of absence. There's a well-known phrase that says, "Absence makes the heart grow fonder," and there's truth to this. When we are constantly present in someone's life, they may start to take us for granted. But when we step back and give them space, they are left to experience the void that our absence creates. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." When we are constantly present in someone's life, they may begin to take our presence for granted. But when we give distance, they begin to realize the impact of our absence. They start to miss the connection, the support, and the unique energy that you brought into their life. This absence creates a sense of longing. It forces the other person to confront the reality of what life feels like without you. In this space of absence, they have the opportunity to reflect on what you meant to them and what your presence added to their life. This reflection often leads to a renewed appreciation for the relationship, and it's often why people come back after distance. But this absence also allows for a deeper understanding of yourself. When you step back, you give yourself the opportunity to assess the relationship from a distance. You can evaluate whether it was truly serving you, whether it was aligned with your values, and whether it was contributing to your overall well-being. Distance gives you the space to see things more clearly, without the emotional fog that constant interaction can create. Absence is not about playing games or trying to manipulate the other person into missing you. It's about creating space for both of you to reflect and appreciate the connection. Sometimes people don't realize what they have until it's gone. By stepping back, you allow them to see your value more clearly. Now, let's talk about the law of attraction and how it aligns with Stoic philosophy. When you give someone distance and focus on yourself, your growth, your emotional well-being, your personal development, you naturally begin to attract positive energy into your life. The Stoics believed that our thoughts shape our reality, and by focusing on what we can control, our own actions, our mindset, and our inner peace, we align ourselves with the natural flow of life. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This applies not only to material wealth, but also to relationships. When you release the need to control or cling to someone, you create space for the universe to bring what is meant for you. The law of attraction teaches us that like attracts like. When you focus on cultivating a positive, peaceful energy within yourself, you naturally begin to attract people and opportunities that align with that energy. It's not about forcing things to happen or trying to control the outcome. Instead, it's about aligning yourself with your true self and allowing what is meant for you to flow naturally into your life. When you give someone distance and focus on your own personal growth, they often feel drawn back toward you. They are attracted to the positive energy you radiate, to the changes they see in you, and to the sense of peace you've cultivated. This is the essence of the law of attraction. When you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, you naturally begin to attract others who resonate with that energy. Finally, people come back after you've given them distance because they see your independence. Stoicism teaches us the importance of self-reliance, of finding our strength within ourselves rather than relying on external sources. When someone sees that you are independent, that you are capable of thriving on your own without needing them to feel whole, they often feel drawn back to you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When your happiness comes from within, people are naturally drawn to your inner strength and independence. Independence doesn't mean that you don't care about the person or that you don't want them in your life. It simply means that you are not dependent on their presence for your happiness. When someone realizes that you are emotionally independent, that you are not constantly seeking validation or reassurance from them, they are often more inclined to return. This independence signals that you are strong, capable, and self-assured, and that kind of energy is incredibly attractive. But it's important to remember that independence is not the same as indifference. You can care deeply about someone and still be independent. You can love them without being dependent on them. This balance of caring without needing creates a healthy dynamic in relationships, one where both people can thrive individually while still supporting each other. In the end, Stoicism teaches us that distance is not a tactic for manipulation, but an opportunity for growth. It allows us to reflect, to grow, and to cultivate emotional resilience. When people return after distance, it's often because they have recognized the value of what they had once taken for granted. But even more importantly, it's because you have grown, evolved, and become someone worth returning to. So, as you reflect on the reasons why someone might come back after you've given them distance, remember that the key is not to chase or control, but to focus on your own journey, your own growth, and your own inner peace. When you cultivate these qualities, the right people will naturally gravitate toward you. Thank you for joining me on this journey today. If this video resonated with you, leave a comment below saying, "In stillness, I find clarity." And if you're ready to dive deeper into the wisdom of Stoicism and personal growth, don't forget to subscribe and join me on this path of peace, mindfulness, and inner strength. Until next time, stay calm, stay grounded, and live with purpose.